Friends, welcome to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. What you did in your youth tends to come back and haunt you. Sometimes it can be good, but sometimes it can really ruin your life. Do you remember when you were a teenager and desperately wanted to get rid of your hated virginity? Do you remember what you went to give away your cherry? Well, it was me multiplied by 10. I couldn't even make a date, let alone make love. It didn't help that I was overweight, had acne all over my face, and that I was unusually shy. And naive, I can't help but mention naivety. I was so eager to be liked and accepted that I was constantly being used. The only thing that suited me was that I had a driver's license and a car. The car was a bittersweet gift from my brother. When I was 13, he was drafted into the army and sent to Vietnam, and he never returned. The day I received my study permit, my father called me to his den and handed me a bunch of keys. Danny said that if anything happens to him, you will take his car. It took me a while before I could drive without tears in my eyes, but then something happened that, I'm ashamed to admit, made me completely forget about Danny. I became popular. Suddenly, I became everyone's good friend. Of course, it was all about the car, but that's where naivety showed up. I thought everyone had suddenly discovered what a great guy I am, that they suddenly saw the inner me, the real me. Suddenly it sounded like, "Hey Dave, let's go to the lake this weekend." Or, "Dave, what would you say if we went to a movie in the parking lot?" I always said yes, and a bunch of teenagers would get in the car and we'd drive away. But when we got to where we were going, I was still an extra person. Not all of them were unanimous in this. They paid for gas, and I never had to pay for admission to the cinema. But as for communicating with the opposite sex, I still had zero results. Even in those days, when guys brought me a girl, she always ended up with someone else. I eventually came to terms with the fact that I was being used. But hey, any popularity is better than none. I don't even remember how many times I drove up to the parking lot and watched in the rearview mirror as a couple kissed, or watched out of the corner of my eye as a couple hugged in the front seat next to me. Then came the night that changed my life. It was Friday night, and a couple of guys asked me to take them to the cinema. Billy Moore sat in the back with Mary Kozlowski and Nancy Holbrook. Bobby Newbert and Sally Mason were sitting next to me in the front seat. 10 minutes into the movie, I heard a soft moan from behind, looked in the mirror and saw Billy Finger making love to Mary. Then Nancy said, "You guys are no better than animals." She opened the door and got out of the car. I went out to follow her. I decided that I would catch up with her, tell her how disgusting I thought Mary and Billy's behavior was, and maybe get her favor. I caught up with her and she turned to face me. "All of you boys are nothing but damn pigs. Just get away from me." And she turned and ran away. When I got back to the car, Billy was between Mary's legs and she was screaming, "Yes, yes, use me, use me." Sally leaned over the seat, watching Bobby make love to her from behind. When I got in the car, the overhead light turned on and Billy yelled, "Turn off the fucking light, damn it." I was just a little mad at Nancy for calling me a pig, even though I'd never said anything to her, and when Billy yelled, it made me even angrier, and I did something none of them had ever seen before. I got mad. "Fuck you, this is my car and my flashlight, and if I want to turn it on, I'll do it, and if you don't like it, get your ass outside and make love on the ground." I saw Bobby smile and heard Sally giggle, and Mary said, "Just shut the fuck up, Billy, and use me." The two couples managed to have a good time, and then they got comfortable to watch a movie. 10 minutes later, they were hugging again, and 20 minutes later, they were making love again. Sally and Bobby had finished and were sitting kissing when the movie ended and the lights came on. Mary and Billy were still making love when suddenly I heard Mary scream, "No, damn it, no, use me, Billy, use me." But Billy had already shot his liquid and got off her, while she called him all the dirty words she could think of. By that time, the parking lot was almost empty, and the servants began to come out of the building and drive away cars, so I started the engine and drove away. We dropped Sally off first, and then Billy told me to drop him off next. "I'm not going to take her home and listen to her whine the whole way," he said of Mary. I dropped him off, and before we could drive away from the front of his house, Bobby climbed over the seat and sat in the back next to Mary. A block later, he was using her, and she was screaming, "Take advantage of me, baby, take advantage of me, make me finish the job." By the time I got to Bobby's house, he had already done his job and was sitting with a smile on his face, while Mary remained lying on her back with a satisfied expression on her face. She was still lying in the back seat when we pulled away from Bobby. When I stopped in front of the stop sign on the corner, Mary sat down and asked, "Davy, are you still a virgin?" I was grunting and gasping, and she said, "You can tell me, Davy. It's not a crime, and we've all been one in our time." I confessed that I still had my cherry, and she asked, "You want to use me, Davy?" I didn't answer her. My tongue was too slurred. Her question caught me off guard. "Of course you would. If you do something for me, Davy, I'll let you use me. You can even use me twice, because I know that the first time will be pretty fast. Would you like to do that, Davy? Would you like to use me tonight?" I croaked, "Yes," and she told me where to drive up and park. "That's all you have to do to use me, Davy." "I can't do that." "Why not?" "Because Bobby and Billy were there." "Trust me, Davy, it won't kill you, and you might even like it." Oh my God, this is disgusting. "Come on, Davy, this is your best chance to get rid of your virginity. I'll tell you what, you do this, and I'll let you use me as many times as you can. Come on, baby, do Mary this favor. If you're really good at this, maybe we can go on a couple dates. Wouldn't you like that, Davy? Wouldn't you like to meet me and maybe use me?" Well, I was desperate to make love, so I let Mary talk me into getting into her back seat. She instructed me how she wanted it to be done, and I was surprised when I did it, and I didn't feel like jumping out of the car and rushing into the bushes. I didn't really care about the taste, but what I really liked was the way Mary reacted. Later, I found out that I had brought her to the extreme stage. When she finished, she looked at me with an expression of surprise on her face and said, "Was this really your first time?" I told her no, and that I was a virgin in every way. "You have a God-given talent, baby. No one has ever forced me to finish a job, no one. Oh, baby, I'm going to turn your world around tonight." My first time was embarrassingly quick, but her efforts quickly brought me to my senses. My second time was a little better, and my first 69 allowed me to feel like myself for the first time and get aroused once again. That night I made love to Mary 3 more times before she couldn't wake me up again, and after each time she asked me to lick her. When I dropped her off at her house at 1:30 in the morning, she spent 5 minutes kissing me goodbye, and getting out of the car she said, "You're mine from now on, Davy. I'll see you tonight after school." I actually saw Mary after school the next day, and that's how one of the strangest relationships I've ever seen began. Mary and I have become a somewhat stable couple. I say partly because Mary never gave up on the other guys she dated. Mary was a cheater. She showed it to me the night she took on both Billy and Bobby. Mary also liked the vicious feeling she felt. Maybe 3 nights a week she would meet another guy and make love to him to death. And when he dropped her off at home, she would walk to the alley behind her house where I was waiting for her. She screamed with delight. On those nights when she wasn't out with other guys, she was with me. Everyone was wondering why one of the most popular girls in school was spending so much time with me. Several of her friends even asked her what she saw in this jerk. Mary had never given any of her friends an answer to this question, and one day I asked her why. "If I told them about your special talent, baby, I'd have to fight them all to keep them away from you." "Is that all I am to you? A mouth? Why, baby, isn't that enough? Isn't what you have now 500% more than it was before I discovered what you're capable of?" "Yes, but..." "No buts, baby. Face it, you're not the real prize. You're a nice enough guy, but not that attractive. Time will get rid of acne, but until you do something about your weight, you will not be attractive to anyone, at least for those who do not know about your special talent. I'll make sure you're one of the best guys in school. Take what you have, Davy, and enjoy it." She was right, and I knew it, but it still hurt that she was so damn honest about it. And then it was over. Mary got a scholarship to UCLA, but before she left for California, she wanted to spend one last night with me. Her parents were away for the weekend, and she asked me to stop by her house at 8. I got there and found Mary in the middle of a threesome. She had 7 guys there, and while I was watching, they all took turns using her for 3 hours, and that's not counting what happened before I got there. About half an hour after I got there, one of the guys said, "Come on, Davy, it's your turn." Mary said, "No, Davy will take his turn later. He's going to spend the night with me, and I want him to be fresh." It brought up the chorus, "What's so special about him?" And it said something like, "I saw him in the locker room, and there's nothing special about him." There were many more comments like that, and then Mary said, "He's so special. He can make me scream, and none of you guys have ever done that." This made the guys even more excited, and I started to feel really uncomfortable and was ready to leave. Mary saw and knew what I was going to do. "Davy, you don't have to if you don't want to, but please, baby, one more time for me. Please. I really didn't want this because I knew these guys and I knew what was going to happen. But the pleading in Mary's voice made me say yes. I undressed and did what Mary loved most in the world. And she screamed and screamed until she experienced this condition twice. And then she said, "Okay, Davy baby, use me. Use me hard and show them how it's done." Either Mary was a great actress, or there was something special about what happened that night, because she screamed and screamed at the top of her voice when I made love to her, and she kicked and jumped in a way she hadn't done with anyone else. When I was done, she brought me to the 69 position until I was hard, and then she pulled me to her, and we did it all over again. When I brought the matter to an end the second time, she said, "Let the others back in, my love. I have all night to take care of you." The gangbang lasted until 1 o'clock in the morning, and then Mary and I were left alone. We made love until I couldn't do it anymore, and Mary and I fell asleep in each other's arms. She left the following Monday, and I never saw her again. What I knew was going to happen happened. The guys who were at the threesome spread the word about what I had done, and pretty soon everyone started glancing at me. The consequences were mixed. Some are good, some are bad, some are very good, and some are very, very bad. The other guys said I was one sick puppy for doing what I did. The other side of the coin was the attention I received from the girls. I got more compliments than I could have imagined, but I had a problem. Do you remember me saying that I am unusually shy? I got the ones that came, but I didn't have the courage to take the first step. About a month later, one of the girls figured it out on her own and one day came up to me and asked, "Is it true what I've heard about you and Mary Kozlowski?" I nodded in the affirmative. "I'm free tonight, aren't you?" Since then, I had a steady stream of girlfriends until I moved to Georgia to get a job. Time has really chased away the pimples, and I finally gained enough willpower to deal with my weight problem. I met Angie and fell in love with her. We got married. We had 3 kids and we lived a typical suburban life, and everything was perfect until Angie went to the reunion. We couldn't hire a babysitter, so I had to stay at home and look after the kids. Angie flew out on Thursday and returned home on Sunday evening. When my children and I met her at the airport, I felt something unusual about her. Nothing obvious, but at least something. That night, she couldn't wait to go to bed after we put the kids to bed, and she was a real tigress. Our life has always been good, but that night everything was just great. Angie pursued me until I just couldn't answer her wish again. As I lay next to her, breathing heavily, I asked, "What came over you tonight?" "Did one of your ex-boyfriends make you so hot and horny at the reunion?" "Something like that." "I don't think you'd bother to explain that." "Well, several men bumped into my leg on the dance floor and I got some pretty strong arousals from some of my former boyfriends. I won't lie to you, my love. I was really very close to giving in to my old regular boyfriend. He was the one who got my cherry, but at the very last second I backed off. You might never have found out, but on the other hand, you could have found out, and I wasn't going to risk losing you over an affair with an old guy. Is that all? Are you excited because you were almost used?" "No, honey, that's not the point. Does the name Mary Brenner mean anything to you?" "No, I can't say that it is." "What about her maiden name, Mary Kozlowski?" "Oh yes, I knew a Mary Kozlowski. Pretty good as far as I understand." "Are we going to dance around this, or are you going to tell me what it all means?" "Did I ever mention Jerry Brenner?" "As far as I remember, no. Jerry and I grew up next door to each other, and we were in the same class from sophomore to high school graduation. When I came to the reunion, I saw Jerry, and there were empty seats at his table, so I joined him. He introduced me to his wife Mary, and when she heard my last name, she said that she had met a certain Mitchell when she lived in Kansas City. I told her you were from Kansas, and she asked if your name was Davy by any chance. When I said that it was, she laughed and commented on what a small world it was. For the rest of the evening, I had the feeling that she was watching me, evaluating me in some way. It was after Todd, my ex-boyfriend, and I returned from the dance floor after hot and intense caresses, and she asked, "Do you do this often?" "What? Get other men and then take Davy home for some dessert?" "I don't understand what you're talking about." "Well, maybe Davy has changed. It's nothing. Forget I even brought it up." "Well, you know me, honey. Wave something like that in front of me, and I'll go after it like a dog after a bone." I waited until she went to the bathroom and followed her. We were alone, so I kept pushing her until she told me about what you two used to do. She saw how I was acting with Todd, and she just assumed that I was going to make love to him, and she was wondering if I did it often, And then I'll take the cream pie home to you. Did you really crawl there after the other guys used it? I'm afraid so, I said. And then I told Angie the story of how it all started. She said you could really make her scream. Yeah, well, Mary was different. What turned her on the most was when I ate her after she was playing with someone else. I'm not so sure if anything I did made her scream as much as the very idea of what I was doing. Did you really do that after the threesome? Yes. That was the last time, just before she left for UCLA. Why didn't I ever know that about you? Because you're not a cheater, my love, and also for the same reason that I didn't know it was Todd who took your cherry. You and I never talked about what we did before we got married. I wonder if marriage has changed Mary. What do you mean? She was a cheater, honey. Anyone, anytime, anywhere. And she wasn't that picky when it came to how many guys were there. I wonder if she has changed, and if not, what kind of relationship she might have with this Jerry. Why did you ask? No reason, just curious. But putting that aside, what was it about Mary and your conversation with her that made you such a dynamo tonight? Aren't you going to laugh or be mad at me? No, of course not. The picture of you having a threesome with her after all these guys fucked her just pissed me off. You can't be serious. Oh, but I am cute. Just the thought of you eating at her place after someone else used her was driving me crazy. Why? I eat it after we make love, and it's the same thing. No, my sweet, no way. It's just you, not 7 other guys, and that's what turned me on. After that, everything changed, at least as far as our love life was concerned. We went from 2 or 3 nights a week to 5 or 6, and if I used to eat her Angie only occasionally after we made love, now she wanted me to do it all the time. Hey, I like my love as much as any other guy, so I wasn't going to complain. I don't think so, but I'm not stupid. I knew what was going on. Angie introduced Mary and me, and it turned her on. I probably should have thought about it more than I thought, but I didn't. I thought she'd get over it eventually, but 3 months later, Angie was still horny. And then suddenly, literally overnight, Angie turned against me sullenly. On Tuesday night, she used me like an obsessive, but on Wednesday, she pushed me away. We made love on Thursday, but it wasn't the frenzied copulation we'd had in the previous 3 months. We went back to making love twice a week, but only once a night instead of the 3 or 4 we used to do, and she wouldn't let me please her anymore. She became quiet next to me, and from time to time I caught her looking at me. As soon as our eyes met, she looked away. It went on for a couple of weeks, and I do not know how much longer it could have gone on if one day I did not come home from work an hour earlier and found her lying on our bed and crying. I sat down on the bed next to her and asked her what happened. Then I reached out and touched her face. She sobbed loudly and turned away from me. I don't want to talk about it. You have to, Angie. Something's been bothering you for weeks now, and it's affecting our relationship, and I want to know what it is. We can't fix this if I don't know what's wrong. It's impossible to fix it. It's too late for that. Nonsense, baby. Everything can be fixed. Not now. Not now, Davy. We can talk later when I'm not so whiny. Okay, Angie, but I'm going to convince you of that. I hope you'll talk to me tonight before we go to bed. I went downstairs and cooked dinner. Angie didn't come down, so I made a plate for her and put it in the microwave, and then washed the dishes after dinner. I helped the kids with their homework, watched some TV with them, and then put them to bed. I sat down on the couch and started watching CNN. I was watching some jerk chatter about the prospects for peace in the Middle East when Angie came into the room. She sat down in an upholstered chair opposite the sofa, which in itself was not a good sign, since she always preferred to sit next to me. She liked to touch and be tangible while we were reading, watching TV, or talking. I took the remote control, turned off the TV, and waited. Her eyes were red from crying, and she continued to nervously look around the room, anything to avoid meeting my gaze. Finally, I broke the silence. Whatever it is, Angie, it can't be so bad that there's nothing we can do about it. Just spit it out and be done with it. She looked down at the floor, took a deep breath, and then, still looking away from me, said, "This can't be fixed, Davy. I was stupid, completely stupid, and ruined her life, and maybe yours. I ruined our marriage. I took all the good things we had, and I fucked it all up because of a stupid, crazy obsession. Come on, Angie, it can't be that bad. Oh yes, it's possible, Davy. I lied to you. I cheated on you, and all because of a stupid, stupid fantasy." I sat there, completely stunned by what Angie had just said. Did Angie cheat on me? It was unthinkable. It's just completely unthinkable. I started to say something, but Angie interrupted me. "Just let me speak up, Davy. Then you can call me a cheater and throw me out. But first, let me get this over with. It all started with a reunion and her conversation with Mary Brenner. She came home with the idea of me drinking the liquid of other men from Mary, and this image turned her on very much. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became, and the more she wanted affection and love. Gradually, the image changed from Mary and me to Angie and myself. Angie started fantasizing about me eating at her place after some other man made love to her. Over the next month or so, the fantasy grew from the fact that I ate one man from her to the fact that I ate two. Then there were 3 of them, 4 and finally 7 men from the group sex. The fantasy was so strong that Angie was doing herself a favor while she was waiting for me to come home. On Tuesday evenings, Angie plays bridge with some of her girlfriends, and one evening one of the girls asked Angie to give her a ride to the bar where she was supposed to meet her boyfriend. Angie went inside to have a drink with Becky and was introduced to Becky's boyfriend, Harry. Harry had a friend with him, and one glass of Angie turned into several. When Harry's friend invited her to dance, she got up and went out on the dance floor with him. She wasn't surprised when she felt his erection pressing against her leg, but she was surprised by the thought that came to her mind. She could use it and then come to my house and actually see what it feels like when I suck another man's fluid out of her. As quickly as the idea came to her, she shooed it away. But a couple more drinks and a couple more dances, and the thought came back. She apologized that she needed to go to the bathroom, and Becky got up to go with her. "He thinks you're hot," Becky said. "What?" "Jim, he thinks you're hot. He would make love to you if you gave him a chance." "You can't be serious." "Oh yes, it is. Your back seat, his back seat, the motel room, he would have finished with you in the blink of an eye." "To be honest, Becky, I'm a happily married woman and I don't run after Dave. Besides, Jim is just a kid. Is he what, 25 or so? I am a 38-year-old woman. You look attractive, honey, and age has nothing to do with it. It's yours if you want it." 2 more glasses, 1 more dance, and Angie was in Jim's car in the back seat, kicking her legs in the air. As soon as it was over, guilt took over, and all the way home I cursed myself for being a stupid fool. But the closer I got to the house, the more I realized that I had another man's liquid in me, and soon I would be home. You and I will go to bed and make love, and then you would eat me. I got goosebumps when I thought about it, and by the time I got home I was so hot that I would have used a parking lot full of gyms. I climbed into bed with you. The love was so intense and satisfying that I didn't think about anything else. Then I started to panic. What if you could find out when you tasted me? I was going to get up and run to the bathroom, but you were too fast for me. And as soon as your tongue touched me, the panic disappeared. At that moment, I didn't care if you found out or not. I had 3 good moments while you were lapping up his liquid. Each one is more intense than the previous one. I only started feeling guilty again after you fell asleep, and then I lay awake all night, and my thoughts alternated between guilt and the pleasure I had just enjoyed. I spent the rest of the week swearing that I would never, ever do anything like this again. The following Tuesday, I took Becky to the bar again. Jim was there with Harry, and we didn't waste time drinking or dancing that night. 10 minutes after I got there, I was lying on my back in his back seat, and he sent me home to you with 4 servings of his liquid. You used me and then licked me, and I finished it so many times that night that I fell asleep completely exhausted. I woke up this morning feeling ashamed of myself and very guilty for what I made you do. I promised myself it would never happen again, but the next Tuesday I was back at the bar and in Jim's car. He made love to me 3 times and then got up to go back to the bar and use the bathroom. I was lying there in the back seat with my eyes closed and dreaming about how I would feel when I got home to you. Only it wasn't Jim. Harry and Becky had an argument, and Becky hailed a taxi home. Harry was already inside me, so there wasn't much I could do about it. Halfway through how he used me, I thought about your first time with Mary and how you ate her after 2 guys made love to her. I stared at him to get aroused, thinking that I could experience the same thing. Between Jim and Harry, I had 7 servings of liquid in me when I got home that night. I was going crazy thinking about how intense love would be, and that there was no way I could hide from you what I had done. I panicked when you commented on how wet I was, and I was damn surprised when you accepted my explanation that I was so wet because I was hot for you all day. My condition that night was so strong that I almost fainted. The next morning, I was so plagued by guilt that I couldn't keep my food in, and I felt miserable all day. I swore to God that I would put an end to what I was doing. But as the days went by, I thought about what it would be like to experience so many mind-blowing states. My resolve weakened, and the following Tuesday I skipped bridge and met Jim and Harry at the motel. The two of them made love to me for 5 hours. Making love with you that night was exactly what I was hoping for, but I was still so worked up that I had to use my dildo on myself after you fell asleep. The next day, the guilt returned with renewed vigor, and everything I ate for the next 3 days was ripped out of me. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was in a complete mess. But by Friday, I was already looking forward to Tuesday. On Tuesday, I skipped bridge again and met Jim and Harry at the motel. Only this time they had a friend with them. And then, on Tuesday after that, there were 2 friends, and then 4, and then 5. I can't explain it, Davy. I honestly can't explain what came over me. It had nothing to do with my love for you. You're still my whole world. It's all because of me. I didn't give a damn about those assholes who made love to me. They were all just a means to an end. All I was thinking about was what you did to Mary, and how I wanted to experience the same thing. I do not know. Maybe I thought that she had a part of you and that I needed to take it back. And the only way to do that was to surpass her. 3 weeks ago, I got to the motel and found 9 men waiting for me. I took one look and then I turned and ran. Since then, I've stayed at home and tried to be a good wife to you, but inside I'm dying. Of course, I realized my fantasy, but at the cost of my self-respect. I blew all my wedding vows to hell, and the worst part is that I used you. I let you suck strangers' fluids out of me, thinking of nothing but my own satisfaction. Don't get me wrong, Dave. When I was in bed with you, I made love to you. It's simple. Shit. I do not know what it was. It was partly a fantasy, partly a desire to possess you as much as Mary had. As a result, I became what you called her, a cheater. I'm a fucking cheater, Dave. It kills me to realize that I did this to myself and that I ruined my life. I hope I haven't ruined yours, Dave. I know you're going to hate me now, but trust me, Dave, you can't hate me more than I hate myself. She started crying again, got up and ran back to the bedroom. I wish I could say that I ran up the stairs after her, hugged her and told her that I still love her and that everything would be fine. But I can't. After that, I couldn't bring myself to even touch her, and after a month of moving away from each other, I packed up and moved out. I've met with a lawyer and the divorce is already in the process. When I pick up the kids on weekends, Angie stays out of sight. The kids don't understand what's going on, and they're too young for me to tell them. Even if I could, how would I be able to make them understand when I don't understand it myself?